How's it going, guys? Today I can release the J35 V6 engine to DQ500 DSG in an all-wheel drive setup. Okay, so it comes with the adapter plate, the two-piece crank adapter, and all hardware. The only problem with this setup was that the block needed to be trimmed a bit, which I'll show you shortly. But before we get to the block, I just want to point out that on the gearbox itself, it's just on the transfer case needs a little bit of clearance over here, and then when you do the assembly, you gotta get the adapter plate onto the gearbox first, and then tighten this all down. While you're doing that, the transfer case must be all the way down, but the bolts mustn't be in. Okay, you gotta leave it loose. Get the adapter in and tighten this all down. Leave the transfer case loose. Let me just show you where to trim on the transfer case. So it's not a lot. It's just like a few millimeters. It's really just it's just a few mils. Okay, so that's with the adapter now tightened down. So you can see why that clearance was needed over there. Okay, so remember, just get the transfer case all the way down and make sure that it can swivel. And what you want to do is you want to sort of push it towards that side to allow more clearance over there while the engine block gets attached. Okay, so this is the extent of the trimming required on the block. Let me just give you a couple of angles here. So it hasn't impacted on the sump at all. This one bolt here, you'll have to machine that down probably maybe about 10 mil down. Get a nice flat surface there for that bolt to go back in. Probably need to shorten that bolt by 10 mil then. And what else? So we lose this one mounting bolt here, which shouldn't be a problem. And then I believe that there was also one mounting bolt, one bolt that went through the crank cap over here as well. So this also needs to be flattened out, and then the head of this bolt must not protrude the surface. You got to sink it in. Same with this one as well. I'm going to make sure that this head goes down. So it's probably going to be more than 10 mil that you need to sink here. And then you'll find that when you're trimming it down, you're going to break through the oil drainage channel in this area over here, which, I mean, it's oil drainage, there's no pressure there. Once you've broken through, what I did is I just welded a 4mm plate in there and then just flattened it out again. Let me just give you an angle from this side. This here is for a locating dowel hole, so it gets very close to the transfer case, so that's why you can see I just about broke through there. It's still fine, it still locates, goes in snug. And just so that you can see the extent of that trimming. Okay. So I have a jig that can be used which attaches to the crank, and then there's an arm that comes out that holds the transfer case away from the block at the right orientation, and so you can use that to start trimming, and then slowly but surely it's on a slide mechanism, so you can slowly but surely start to bring the transfer case closer and closer and closer as you're trimming, so you don't end up trimming on the wrong spots. I can provide that as well separately. Otherwise, like this customer did, he sent me the block and I did it for him. So that's always an option. So if you wanted to do it yourself, the trimming of the block, then I would provide you with this that basically attaches to the crank, and it's set at the right height from the face of the block. That offset's correct, and then you would then attach this onto the aluminium block, and then your transfer case attaches onto the back of this. So in that way you have this sorry, I'm just trying to hold the camera here. This way you have this sliding feature where you can actually hold the transfer case at the right orientation but away from the block, so you can start to mark out and start to trim, and the closer you go until eventually this little half moon here will bottom out onto the center, and then you know the transfer case has gone all the way. So that can be provided if as an extra. So that's the extent of the trimming. Yeah, you gotta really want it. Next up, we'll get the block assembled onto the gearbox. Okay, and then that's the assembly done. So the transfer case, obviously the engine block will locate onto the engine bell housing dowels, so you'll know that it will be in the correct position. Remember the transfer case bolts, mounting bolts you left out, and now you can be sure of clearance between the transfer case and the block by means of being able to actually rotate that transfer case freely, and that will give you the confirmation that you have 100% clearance between there. And obviously now you can just rotate the transfer case, sorry, it's down there, rotate it until you get the holes to line up and tighten that down. So if I can just show you starting from the bottom, yeah, let me put the flashlight on. So certain places I have taken off a little bit more than probably what was needed, but yeah, you also got to be able to get the grinder in there, so sometimes you do end up taking off a little bit more than what's needed, but it's all clear there. This is a 30mm plate, for interest sake. And probably just need to mention as well, so this line here was the V6 original level position of this engine, and you can see that it's very close to being in line with the sump of the DSG. So they're probably within 2 or 3 degrees of each other. But what's more important is, I don't know if you can see it on the picture or on the video, but look at the relationship between the bottom of the pan and the output to the prop shaft. So obviously you want that flange to point towards your diff down your tunnel. So that's pretty much got to stand approximately perpendicular to the car. So that's going to be your most important point, is to get that level with the car. Okay, and by doing that, you will find that the engine would have to rotate slightly in that direction. As you can see, it's now pointing slightly downhill. So, which means that you will have to slightly rotate. Basically, the whole assembly has to rotate slightly to get that to be in a as close as vertical as possible, so that your prop shaft universal joint sits nice and straight towards the tunnel, down the tunnel towards the rear diff. And then look, for all DSG swaps, you need custom side shafts and you need custom mounts in any case. Sometimes you can get away with using this side engine mount, but it's hardly, it doesn't always happen. So either way, you need you need custom mounts and you need custom side shafts. But when fitting, try and make sure that that is your focus, your focal point, and then you work from the backwards to get your mountings and stuff made. So sometimes I do supply a transfer case support bracket. So in this case, it would have probably fitted on those three, probably on these 2 points here, and then come up and then bolt into probably into that 2 areas there. But unfortunately, this customer already cleared, took some clearance away here, so I don't have an exact spot to work on to make a bracket. But that's if you want a bracket. It's not really not all that important, but obviously you can make one, and you just pick it up from those 2 points, bring an L-shaped bracket up, and then meet up with that one and that one there. Okay, that's about it. That's this J35 TQ500 all-wheel drive setup. I can provide a front-wheel drive version as well, which won't involve all that trimming of the block. Probably less than 5% of that trimming will be required for the front-wheel drive setup. Obviously, the front-wheel drive setup will come with a mid shaft, and that mid shaft will pass through, and the mid shaft bracket will then attach to again, I would say probably those 2 points to support the mid shaft bracket. So yeah, front wheel drive setup is it's doable as well. So yep, that's it for that. Thank you very much.